Hi everybody, I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films. And that was a film about the German postal system, and it was silent. And it might have been made during that period of National Socialism in German history. Some of the films that I've gotten in that batch were definitely, and they kind of show off some military stuff. But yeah, at the very least, it's an interesting look at postal workers in another country. So let's see. Welcome back, those of you who were away for the holidays. Yesterday we showed Metropolis, the entire film, because it has fallen into the public domain, and it was a good old time. So I think that's still online at YouTube, etc. One of the new things that we implemented in the new year was if you're on YouTube, you can actually do a donation via a super thanks, or there's a super sticker you can buy. I don't know. I really have no experience with it, except that I know that some people like it because it's built into the YouTube experience and you don't have to go to another site to do it. But at the very least, hit the thumbs up. You don't have to donate. You can just say, we like this, and you can tell friends about it. All right, so behind me, I have a film scanner, and we have a film set up on it. And this one's called Stuff for Stuff. And I don't know a whole lot about it, so let's watch it. Enjoy.
Prosperity and peace require both the old world and the new in full production and the revival of two-way world trade. The nations of the world buying, selling their surplus goods as stuff. Economics are supposedly very difficult to understand. Perhaps a quick look at history will be helpful. The cavemen made pictures of the animals. They hunted daily for food. Life was a constant struggle for survival in a world that had not harnessed the forces of nature. Then in ancient Egypt, the dawn of civilization was recorded in the tombs of the pharaohs. Early Egyptians made primitive tools and mastered sun and soil to grow their own food. Then one man with a plow produced food for many men. This freed men to specialize in other things. Each man concentrated on work he did best. This meant more and better goods. Men became interdependent and traded, at home and abroad. Foreign trade made sense, for each land offered unique products due to climate, resources, or skills. So the Egyptians learned that the more abundantly they could produce goods at home, the more surplus goods they had to exchange for the goods of foreign lands. And the greater their prosperity. The drain of her wealth into temples and tombs finally weakened Egypt and paved the way for defeat in wars. But the principles of trade she developed in the Nile Valley lived on to be used by later peoples. Phoenicians, sailing into the unknown, brought back tin and cinnamon. Opening the world further, the Greeks and Romans added hemp, silk, spices, and precious gems. The Spanish and Portuguese discovered oranges, tea, corn, potatoes, rubber, and chocolate. The French and English introduced furs, sugar, tobacco, cotton, and pineapples to world trade. So the profusion and variety of the produce of all lands was drawn into trade channels to be made available throughout the world. And with the ever-increasing tide of two-way trade, the world was made truly interdependent. Then, in Britain, mechanical power greatly increased production and enabled Britain to lead the world in a century of prosperity and peace. Surplus goods were shipped as loans to young, undeveloped lands such as America. Machinery and other capital goods made it possible to develop the natural wealth of the land. Factories sprang up overnight. Prosperity came to the New World as output mounted. Goods that America produced were freely accepted by Britain in repayment for goods loaned. Britain established a great trade network that extended around the world to Canada, Argentina, the Orient, Australia, India, Africa, and the United States. And as with the Egyptians, the British knew that the more abundantly they could produce at home, the more surplus goods they had to exchange for the goods of foreign lands, and the greater their prosperity. Then in 1914, in a bid for world domination, the Kaiser's Imperial Germany struck at the existing order. Nation after nation was drawn into battle. All peoples became grimly aware of their interdependence as the spreading conflict grew into the First World War. At war's end, with Europe in ruins, America replaced Britain as the world's great producer of goods. American mass production brought about a huge increase in output. This made it possible for the United States to send Europe the goods needed to rebuild her war-torn industries and make them productive again. But then both the old world and the new raised traders. Nations produced surplus goods and opened their gates wide to sell abroad, but refused to accept goods from abroad in payment. This stopping of two-way world trade affected everyone. For example, American cars are made of raw materials from many lands. Canceled orders meant unemployed men in Detroit, and unemployed in the countries supplying the raw materials. And likewise, European products are made of raw materials from many lands. Again, canceled orders meant men without jobs, not just in Europe, but men without jobs throughout the entire world. And so it went. Canceled orders meant idle men who bought less goods. This in turn canceled more orders, and finally a worldwide depression drove embittered men to accept the new order demanded by tyrants. War II, with its accent on air power, leveled the cities of Europe after months of pounding. Then overnight away, the war ended and a new era in warfare began when a B-29 dropped a single atomic bomb. In a flaming instant, the bomb brought sudden death to nearly 100,000 people. Later, a B-29 flew non-stop from Japan to Washington, thus demonstrating to the world the frightful prospect that had the Axis powers been in possession of these weapons, all civilization might well have been destroyed. Civilization will be destroyed in a final war unless undeveloped areas are made productive, unless destroyed areas are rebuilt, unless producing areas can ensure full employment, unless trade barriers are removed. That is why the United Nations is establishing the necessary international machinery for helping the world to produce more and trade more. That is why the United States, Canada, and other countries are shipping goods to war-damaged and undeveloped lands. When the old world and the new are in full production, when two-way world trade is revived, when surplus goods are bought and sold as stuff for stuff, then the nations of the world will see the dawn of a new era of prosperity and peace.
I like me a film that has some interesting infographics in it. I think that film was made in 1949. I didn't expect it to have as much war footage in it, but there you go. Also, the idea of stuff, the term stuff, just doesn't seem like it's a 40s term. It seems like it's a 70s or 60s term. I don't know. But that's just me. All right. Let's learn about food and nutrition. And now, so what's interesting about this is an Encyclopedia Britannica film, and it features our good old friend James Brill, but he doesn't say protein. At some point from the time that he made the first film about nutrition, he says protein, but now he says protein. So at some point in there, it changed, and he checked. Instead of falling back to saying protein, he probably still says ruptals. But anyways, here's food and nutrition. Enjoy.
Man is a living machine. He requires a supply of food for energy, growth, and maintenance of the body organs. A typical man usually eats daily carbohydrates about 600 grams, fats 100, proteins 100, minerals 5, traces of vitamins, and water 2,000 grams. During digestion, the simple sugars are absorbed by the walls of the intestines. Here they pass into the bloodstream, and the portal vein carries them to the liver. Aided by insulin and enzymes, the liver converts soluble sugars into insoluble glycogen and stores it until needed by the body. Some sugar is also converted to glycogen in the various muscles of the body. The fats digested in the intestines enter the lymphatics and pass through the main lymphatic duct into the jugular vein. The blood carries the fats to all tissues. Some are stored in specialized fat cells represented here. These are located in all parts of the body, but they are particularly abundant under the skin. Stored fats are one form of reserve energy. Hogs may become fat from overeating. Fats, excess carbohydrates, and part of the excess protein may all be converted into fat. People who follow their natural urges for food are likely to take in more food than the body can use. The best ways to keep from getting fat are to decrease the food eaten and to increase the muscular work done. Working hard, or for that matter, merely living, demands fuel. The body's main fuel is sugar, and as the sugar in the blood is used, the liver converts its glycogen back to sugar, which enters the blood and goes to all the cells in the body to supply energy for additional work. Proteins and stored fats may also be drawn upon for energy, but they are less readily mobilized than is the glycogen of the liver. In the diet, starches, fats, and proteins may be substituted one for the other to supply energy. To obtain energy, this fuel must be burned, and this requires oxygen, whether used slowly, as by the white mouse in this jar, or rapidly, as by the candle in this. When the candle and mouse have used up 1/5 of the volume, which is the total oxygen in the air within the jars, the flame of life goes out in both. By measuring the amount of oxygen used by this man, it is possible to determine the rate of organ activity, as well as the amount of heat produced. This container holds pure oxygen which the man breathes. As the man breathes in, the tank falls. As he exhales, the tank rises. Oxygen is inhaled directly from the tank. Exhaled air, due to the one-way valve, is forced back through soda lime, which absorbs the carbon dioxide produced in the body and permits return of unused oxygen to the container. Absorption of carbon dioxide by lime can be demonstrated by exhaling through lime water. Insoluble calcium carbonate is formed. This stylus records the amount of oxygen still remaining in the tank. The low points are the ends of each inspiration. We draw a line joining these low points. From the slope of this line, we compute the volume of oxygen used by this man in 6 minutes. Then we calculate what this volume would be under standard conditions of temperature and barometric pressure. From the height and the weight of this man, we determine his body surface. Warm-blooded animals, when resting and not recently fed, use oxygen at a rate directly proportional to the body surface. Therefore, the basal metabolism is expressed in calories produced per square meter of body surface in 24 hours. The same man is now doing work against a brake. The stylus drops much faster than before, indicating a more rapid consumption of oxygen. Performing the same calculations as before, we now find that the metabolic rate is almost 4 times as great as when he was at rest. Cattle assist man by making readily available in the form of meats and dairy products the proteins which are manufactured by plants. During digestion, the proteins are broken down to amino acids. Here we see young cells growing in tissue culture, essential building stones for their growth, and for the repair of all cells are the amino acids from proteins. No other food will substitute for them in this important function. We shall feed one of these young rats a normal diet, and the other a diet too low in protein. Note the difference in the rate of growth. After 5 weeks, the one on the low protein diet is stunted, weak, and diseased. In the liver, the amino acid molecules not used in growth and repair are split. Some parts may be changed into fats and move away to be stored in fat tissues. Or these parts may be changed into glycogen and stored in the liver for future use. In either case, ammonia is left. Most of this is converted into urea, which is excreted by the kidneys. Besides carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, the body needs at least a dozen different minerals. For example, inadequate calcium in the diet may lead to many defects, especially of the teeth and bones. Insufficient iron may result in anemia, that is, too few red corpuscles in the blood. Anemia may also be caused by insufficient vitamins and proteins in the diet. Anemia produces great weakness. Total elimination of inorganic salts from the diet, as in the animal at the right, results in extreme weakness and early death. We also need in the diet very small amounts of many organic substances called vitamins. The specific defects produced by lack of these vitamins are determined by giving to experimental animals diets adequate except for one of these vitamins. If, for example, rats receive no vitamin A, growth is retarded, and the eyes become infected. A deficiency of vitamin B results in disturbed nerve control, as in the case of this pigeon. Insufficient vitamin D results in rickets or softening of the bones, as in this child. In the past, hunger and appetite, rather than understanding, have been, on the whole, satisfactory guides to eating. When the stomach is empty, there occur in it waves of severe contractions, which produce the sensation of hunger, an urge fixed by heredity. Appetite, however, appears to be the memory of pleasant experiences with food. It is aroused by the sight of food, which stimulates the optic nerves, the odor of food, which stimulates the olfactory nerves, and the presence of food in the mouth, which stimulates the taste nerves. During a meal, these impulses pass to the brain, which relays them to the walls of the stomach, causing relaxation of the stomach, and eventually stops both hunger and appetite. When all men have understanding of adequate diets and also have means to secure them, then hunger and appetite will guide the people of tomorrow to a healthier life. Not only more years, but more years of happiness in achievement.
Hey, thank you, Stuart, for donating via YouTube, and thank you, William, for some coffee. He donated via ko-fi.com/avgeeks. Both of those are great gifts because, you know, we need coffee. And we're also looking to do a big recanning project where we're going to get rid of the rusted cans that we have that are seizing up and becoming airtight and increasing the vinegar problem, and replacing them with plastic archival cans. So that's going to be a big project we're going to work on this month. Let's see. I have another film set up on the scanner, and it is called Stitchery. Stitchery. I'm adding it to the title. And it is... Let's watch it. Enjoy.
Stitchery is the art of decorating cloth. When cloth is decorated with yarn and thread, it is called embroidery. Embroidery can be like drawing, because with yarn you can draw lines and shapes and fill them in. Heavy lines of yarn can be stitched to the surface of a fabric. Knotting the yarn is a way of making small spots of bright color. With these simple embroidery stitches, you can create a variety of patterns and textures. Texture gives embroidery its special quality. It comes from the yarns you use, the stitches you use, and the way you arrange them on the background. Needlepoint is a type of stitchery in which yarn is sewn to a special canvas backing. The needlepoint stitch is very regular and it fills the canvas backing completely. Applique is a type of stitchery in which designs are created from pieces of cloth. In applique, cutout shapes are sewn to a cloth background. Sometimes applique is combined with embroidery. The cloth shapes can be varied by cutting into them. These simple materials, yarn, thread, and cloth, offer many new experiences in color and design.
Some that wonderful soundtrack. It's very soothing. It's kind of like Bob Ross, watching Bob Ross do arts and crafts. And more recently, I've been watching on YouTube. Before I go to bed, I've been watching this channel that's just udon Japanese restaurants, where it's very little dialogue. It's mostly just people preparing udon food. And there's just something, just love it, man. Okay, anyways, what do I got set up for you? Man, that's too long. Oh, yeah. Speaking of arts and crafts, we'll just watch this. Yeah, this is Clay, Hands, and Fire. And I just found this recently, and it has a wonderful shot of a projector. So enjoy.
Shall I pour?
Yes, please do.
Isn't this a new service?
Rather.
Oh, it's lovely.
Apart from being spode, it has another particular significance for me. It's the very pattern I saw being made while I was visiting Stoke-on-Trent.
Really? How interesting.
Quite a revelation going through one of those great potteries.
I should imagine so. Do tell us about it.
I can do even better than just telling you. I can show you exactly what I saw myself.
Why, you took motion pictures.
Exactly. And in about 2 seconds, we'll have them on the screen. I don't think many of us realize the years of skill and the labor that go into the making of fine ware. So for a permanent record, I took this film as I went through the Spode works. What you are seeing now is the birthplace of present-day china and earthenware, the potteries in Staffordshire. And in the centre of this district is the town of Stoke-on-Trent, where Josiah Spode established his company in 1770. Part of Spode's fame was due to his perfection of the underglaze engraving process, which made it possible for us to have the thousands of patterns that we now see in modern dinnerware. Two descendants of Spode's first partner are the present owners and active heads of the company today, Ronald and Gresham Copeland. They were kind enough to arrange for us to have a personally conducted tour of the works and pointed out many of the technical details that are generally unknown to the public. We started in the yards where the crude clay is stored.
Does it all come from Staffordshire?
No, none of the local clay is suitable for such fine ware as Spode, though clay from Staffordshire has been used for rough pottery since the time of the Romans. China clay and China stone come from Cornwall. Ball clay is brought from Devonshire. It's analyzed for quality before it's accepted, and then it's left to weather and mature for 5 to 10 years. After that, it starts on its long and interesting journey, from potter's mixture to fine dinnerware. They break the crude clays into small pieces, and in carefully weighed proportions they are mixed with water. Then it is beaten and whipped. Whipped until the particles of clay are so fine that they can actually be suspended in the water. When the consistency of the mixture has been carefully checked by weighing, this creamy white liquid is further refined. At this stage of the process, the mixture is known as slip. After it has gone through these agitators, it passes through a series of sieves, each finer than the one before, and the last so fine that even ordinary face powder won't pass through it. The finer the sieve, the finer the ware. Then it's allowed to trickle over a series of electromagnets.
Magnets? For making earthenware?
Well, you see, if any iron were left in the clay, it would cause black spots on the finished ware. This liquid clay is only used for making certain cast pieces. But most types of ware need clay that is plastic and doughy, so the water is squeezed out of it. That thin mixture we saw being made is pumped with high pressure into folds of fine mesh cloth. After 24 hours, the water has seeped out, and the residue is clay that's stiff as putty. These men are getting ready for the pug mill. The mill acts somewhat like an overgrown food chopper, but its chief purpose is to cut and squeeze the clay until there isn't the slightest chance of air bubbles remaining in it. Looks like metal when it comes out, doesn't it? Yet it's actually about the consistency of butter, but it's still not ready for use. From the pug mill it goes into cellars to mature for at least another 10 days before it's put into the hands of the potter. These chaps are really known as throwers. They take a shapeless lump of clay, spin it on the potter's wheel, and, well, see it take shape for yourself.
Is all of the earthenware made that way?
No, just the pieces of regular shape. Now you'll notice that this fellow only finishes the inside of that piece. The finishing of the outside is the work of the turner. Take this fellow, for example. He's working on an egg cup, turning it on a lathe.
Heavens, that clay must be as strong as wood.
Seems that way, doesn't it, the way those shavings come off? Incidentally, the better the wear, the more it weighs, because the particles of clay are so firmly packed together.
Why, that's elation to me.
Make the test yourself sometime. You'll find that spode, for example, is much heavier than ordinary earthenware. Here's a curious relic. It's an old foot power lathe, the kind used before the machine age. Of course, none of them are used today. In this comparatively simple operation of plate making, a lump of clay is flattened out on a revolving table. Then, just like dough that has been rolled out for pie crust, it's laid over a plaster of Paris mold, which forms the top surface of the plate, while a profile shapes the back. But dish or platter making requires more skill than any other phase of potting. Except for preparing the sheet of clay and using a plaster Paris mold, every operation is done by hand. I was told that no mechanical means has ever been found to equal the quality that comes from the handwork of the old craftsman. He gives it just the right shape and even thickness. Remember this painstaking hand operation next time you compare the prices of platters and plates. The cup maker. This is what they call jollying. Why, I don't know. Probably Old English. At any rate, it's the process used for making cups, bowls, and similar shapes. Then come the handles. He's taking his first step toward becoming a master potter, carrying on the tradition of generations before him. A bit of clay thinned with water is the adhesive. Dip them in, stick them on, and wipe them off. And after the cup has been fired, the handle and joint are one and the same piece. Looks simple, but it takes a practiced eye and steady hand, plus plenty of experience to do this simple job perfectly. Articles like this teapot and covered dishes, sugar bowls, gravy boats and such are often made by casting. First, this fellow fills the mold with slip, that thin liquid clay. As the plaster of Paris soaks up the water, a layer of clay is formed on the sides of the mold. After a few minutes, this becomes the thickness of the finished piece, and the rest of the slip is poured out. But it's still not dry enough to be removed before the following day. Then the straining holes are punched in. And finally, the spout and handle are mounted on. Delicate little operations that call for sure touch and master craftsmanship.
What do they use to make those extra pieces stay on?
The same liquid clay that we saw being made originally. No other adhesive is used. A sight that intrigued me was to see the girls carrying the ware into what they call the greenhouse, where the green or unfired ware is left to dry for a day.
It looks terribly precarious to me.
Yet it's almost unheard of for them to drop one of those loads. When the ware comes from the greenhouse, it's carefully packed in saggers.
Is that another old English term?
It's a corruption of safeguard, and that's precisely what those spode dishes need to protect them from the flames of the ovens. Saggers last through only 3 or 4 fires and then have to be replaced. Old Burton, the sagger maker, is the 5th generation of his family who have made saggers for Spode. And many other workers are descendants of men who worked for Spode when he started his business. The green ware is packed in flint sand to keep the pieces apart. The first firing takes 2 days at temperatures that would completely burn up steel. But this terrific heat turns fine clay into hard, durable ware. The thousands of patterns that are used on Spode are under the guardianship of Thomas Hassel, art director of the works. Old patterns that have come down since the founding of the company are still used. And like the originals, the new engravings of them are tooled by hand. For simple dinner service, as many as 30 or 40 individual engravings are required. I was interested to see that the handling of these engravings is as much a work of art as the making of a fine etching. Each plate, cup or bowl requires a separate engraving or print, carefully surfaced with a special color. Then it is printed on an etching press on wet tissue. Worthy of being framed, isn't it? Those old Spode patterns are true masterpieces of engraving. The printed tissues then go to these girls, who deftly transfer them onto the ware. Incidentally, the ware at this stage is called biscuit, unglazed and still porous, so that when the tough paper with its impression of the engraving is rubbed strenuously, the color of the moist ink will be absorbed by the ware. Then, when the tissue is washed off, an imperishable pattern is left on the ware.
Is every design printed?
No, only one color is ever printed. Any additional colors are painted in by hand. Here's Mrs. Priestley, for instance. She's 82 now, has worked for Spode all her life. A simple outline of the figure was first transformed onto the unglazed biscuit ware. Then she paints in all the colors by hand. It's only when the ware has an entire pattern of a single color that no additional painting is required. And here's Mrs. Turner, painting a Toby jug. She and Mrs. Priestley are supervisors of groups of artists. The skill and delicacy of this hand coloring is really wonderful to see. Imagine doing what this woman is doing. With only her eye to guide her, she paints a line on a sauce boat, just the right width, just the right place, and never a slip. Before glazing, the oils that have been used in the colors are dried out in revolving electric kilns. Here's a mechanical process that's the most modern thing of its type. While Spode holds to the conviction that nothing can replace the fine craftsmanship of human hands, whenever anything mechanical can be improved upon, they're quick to do it. After the drying, the ware is ready for the glaze.
Oh, but he's covering up all that beautiful design.
Oh, what you see there is a mixture of finely powdered glass and water. The dipper, as this fellow is called, spreads it evenly over the entire surface of each piece. Moving shelves take the ware through a heated chamber that dries out all the water in the liquid glass, leaving a surface that looks like talcum powder. Then the ware is again put in saggers, this time to melt the powdered glass and transform it into heavy glaze which protects the ware and richens the colors in the pattern. Clay, hands, and fire. The quality of each determines the quality of the finished ware. And here it is, with every color glowing brilliantly through the rich, heavy glaze. Down to the very last inspection, there's a tradition of fine craftsmanship in the making of this famous ware. A tradition that has survived from one generation to another in people, all of them craftsmen, artists, and men and women whose pride in their work is reflected in the beauty and enduring quality of their product, which we enjoy so unthinkingly every day. Yet, it is that pride of craftsmanship which makes one proud to be the possessor of ware as fine as Spode.
I realize that now. A teacup. But never again will it be just a teacup.
That was really awesome for a couple of reasons. One, it's never just a teacup. Two, tissue. I don't even know how you would spell that. Tissue. But then also at the beginning, it's like, not only can I tell you, I can show you. I filmed it. And they clear the tea set, and then they set a projector on the coffee table, and then supposedly we see the process that he has filmed. And the process is fascinating. I feel like this is probably pre-World War II in the UK. And so, that woman in her 90s that was still working there, that's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And it's like, oh, wait, does she still have to work because she's in her 90s, or does she work because she wants to work? That's something that my brain always goes there. But fascinating. Thank you, Richard, for the coffee. And thanks you guys in general for tuning in. I'm happy to be back in 2023. We're going to strive to show more films live that we've pulled and scanned that will give you more kind of premieres of things. And there'll be more surprises. Like, I don't know what this is. But join us again tomorrow on Wednesday, and we'll watch some more films. In the meantime, hit the like button or the thumbs up button. Those are great ways to support us, even if you don't want to sling some cash our way, just showing that your support is enough. Please rewind and love each other, and we will see you tomorrow. Everybody take care.